All right, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Hey Guys. Hey, we're moving on with Onshape. So we're going to actually start to create something. We're going to create a round column that has square base and top, um, and we're going to walk through how to do it. So we're going to do this in bits and pieces. So it's not going to all be done in this one video because there's a lot of steps involved. All right, so last time we talked, when we were introducing Onshape, we made this box right here. We made this kind of rectangular cube. We used the center point rectangle tool in our sketch tool, and then we extruded it. Um, I've been playing around with it. It's not a perfect square anymore like it was before. Um, but we're going to go through and change this thing around. So you might be thinking, but wait, we already made that. How do we possibly change anything? Well, that's the beauty of CAD. So we can always go back if something's not right. Like maybe we designed a whole part and we printed it like on our 3D printer to test out our ideas, and we discovered that something is wrong. Well, we can always go back in to where that part of the object was made and make alterations. And I'm going to show you how to do that right away. So I need to dimension the outside of this box so that it fits with what I'm making. So when did I make the outside of this box? Well, I made that when I made the sketch, because you remember I sketched the center point rectangle and then I extruded it up, whatever it was, right? So I'm going to go back into Sketch 1. So remember, over here on the left side, I told you that Onshape is going to record everything that you do. So if I go back here to Sketch 1, you can see that it's grayed out. By the way, I've also grayed out by clicking on the eyeballs on all these planes. Now don't worry, they're still there. I've just turned off their visibility. That's what that means, that eyeball with the line through it. So you can also see that my visibility on my sketch has been turned off. Now it does that automatically after you make your part three-dimensional based on that sketch. So that way it kind of keeps the workspace clean, because if you kept seeing all those sketches, it might get a little bit confusing. What we're going to do, I'm going to go in here. I'm on the computer version. So I'm going to right click with my mouse, and you can see that right underneath edit, or right underneath rename is edit. And that's where I'm going to add in some dimensions. Now, let me change my view to a top view. Now, if you remember, I made this a center point rectangle. Well, I knew what I was going to be doing with this little demo. I knew that ultimately I was going to make this column. So I picked a center point rectangle tool to make this sketch for a reason. So the way this column is built, everything is kind of pinned around the center point of the whole thing. So in other words, as I continue to make this, you're going to see that the origin point is going to stay right in the middle of the part. And if we projected a line up from the origin, that's going to practically be the axis of this whole column. So why did I do that? Well, that's something called design intent. I knew that if I designed that how this part was going to look, like I had a pretty good idea how this part was going to look. So I knew that if I had a point right in the middle of my part, it would make my creating this part much easier. So that's why I use the center point rectangle. All right, so when we're drawing stuff in Sketch, in Onshape, anytime we're doing a sketch, you're going to notice something. You're going to notice that like these lines right here are blue, right? You're going to see something happen with these lines. Of course, when I'm over top of them, they turn kind of a gold color. That's how you know you're over top of it. But you're going to see, we're going to make all these end up being black. How do we do that? Well, when we're in sketching, there's something, this is where the term parametric modeling comes in. I don't want to dig deep into that, but just know this. There's two ways to kind of have an effect on what you're drawing, what you're creating in the sketch. And one is by dimensioning it. So if you say that it's like one side is a particular dimension, say if I say this is 10 millimeters, then that line is going to be 10 millimeters. But as you look around, as I move my scroll around, my cursor around, you'll see that when I get to certain points, other little things light up. So here, what we see is we see three different images. One that's kind of like a diagonal T, this one right here, that's blue, that is a coincidence constraint. What is coincidence? Well, coincidence is when one thing is meeting or on top of another thing. So I might have a line that, so if I come over here to these corners, you might see another coincidence constraint, right? See that coincidence constraint down there in the corner, right? Now, you also see some other things when I get on the line. You see that thing that kind of looks like a chair sitting on the floor. Well, that's actually a perpendicular constraint. So that means that this line and this line are perpendicular to each other. You'll also see on this one, those two little slanted lines. That's a parallel constraint. That's because this line and this line are parallel to each other. This line has a parallel constraint to the top line, but you also see where it's got like what looks like a minus sign. Well, that's actually a horizontal line because that's a horizontal constraint. So you can see that there's already built in. So, those two little dots in the middle of those lines, that means it's a midpoint. So this point right here, and you'll see that there's two. That's because the origin point is at the midpoint of this line and also the midpoint of this line and this line. So, what does all that mean? That means that those things that exist, I can't change unless I go on to them, and if I highlight it, I can delete that constraint, but I don't want to. But it's going to kind of lock things in place. Now, the only thing that's left really to lock in place with this is just the dimensions. So how do you dimension in Sketch? Well, we go up here, and you see this like arrowed line that's kind of between these two lines. That's the dimension tool. I kind of think it looks like a, the Darth Vader's ship from Star Wars. So it kind of looks like a TIE fighter or whatever those were called. So if I click on that and I see the blue box around it, that means it's highlighted. Now, all I have to do is click on the lines. Now, this line, instead of 92, we want this to be 28. So if I just hit the 28 and then the tab, that keeps the tool in my hand, so to speak. And now look, these two lines are black. That's because I can't make this any longer. So I can't move these away from the origin because they're locked into this line. They're locked into the line that's still blue that I dimensioned to 28. You're probably thinking like, why didn't the 28 millimeter line change? Well, because I can't make that longer, but I can make the other two. I can pull this out. I have the dimension tool in my hand, so I can't really do it, but I could change the shape of this thing by dimensioning this line or by dragging it out. But these two lines relative to the origin point are always going to be, 28 millimeters apart from each other. So that's why they're still lit up. So if I go to either one of these other two lines and click on it, you're going to see the number that it already is. I'm going to change that to 28. And now because I'm done, I'm going to hit the return key. And then I actually still have the dimension tool highlighted. If I wanted to let go of that, I could just right click and hit escape dimension. But now that I'm done changing this sketch, I'm going to click on the green button. So now, if we look at it in an isometric view, you can see that I have a 28 millimeter square column, but the height is still wrong. So how do I change the height? Well, I come over here to extrude, and on the left-hand side, I right-click on that and go to edit. So here I am back. Remember this from before? Well, it's got the same faces, and it's 39.9 millimeters. I want to highlight that and change that to 8. So once I change that to 8, make sure that everything's still right. It's still in new parts, first part we've extruded. And I'm good. I hit the green check, and now I've made the base of my column. All right, so next video, we're going to go ahead and put together the rest of this column. I'm going to show you some more reasons why. You're going to see more clearly why we built this thing around the origin point. We're going to talk more about design intent, and we're going to actually make this column. So thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.